So they succeeded in taking out the leadership of Iran, but the system that Iran operates, it operates a system whereby even if the top leadership is taken out of the equation, that the system can still hold. And that is what has happened. The system is still holding. The system of leadership that has been created by the Iranian system of theocracy over decades is still holding, because if a top leader is taken out, there are measures in place to ensure that there is still continuity, and now we have a new leader, the son of the supreme leader, Mushtaba Khamenei. So that is the situation now. You know, I remember looking back, like in when Obama was president. Obama gave a red line to Syria leader Al-Assad. There was the Arab Spring, there were protests in Syria, against Al-Assad. The Al-Assad, the family, they've been in charge of Syria for decades. So it was popular uprising against Al-Assad. Al-Assad, stood firm, and later got support from Russia. Before then, there were reports that Al-Assad was using chemical weapons on his own people. So the US President then, Obama, now gave a red line that Al-Assad uses chemical weapon on his people. That would be a red line that the United States would be involved. And then there were now reports, verifiable reports, that Al-Assad used chemicals on his people. The Obama's red line was crossed, and it's now Obama's time. It was now time for Obama to decide whether to invade, whether to attack Syria, or not. And so Obama now spent time thinking about the decision. He spent a long time. He spent quite some time thinking about the decision. There was this picture I saw himself and his chief of staff. They do long walks. They discuss and discuss and discuss. At the time, Obama was criticized for over analysis of things. Obama is a professor of law, and so you analyze issues as though it's a court case, as he's trying to fight against. So there were people that worked with Obama then that came out and said, "Oh, Obama was too analytic, was too detailed. It was, there's this thing they call analysis paralysis. When you overanalyze an issue, you become incapable of making a decision because you've gone too deep." So Obama thought and thought, discussed, and yet Obama made the decision not to attack Syria, even though they crossed the red line that he had put in place. And Obama was roundly criticized for that, even by members of his own party. Some Democrats criticized Obama for not taking action in Syria when there was evidence that chemical weapons were being used. And then Russia now seized the opportunity to show up support for Syria, and at the end of the day, Al-Assad stayed in power for long, until recently. The point I'm making is that when Obama was faced with that choice of taking action in the Middle East, he had the back of his mind what had happened in Afghanistan, had happened in Iraq, and how the US has spent decades there, spent years there in trying to rebuild the country, and that proved to be quite a difficult task. And Obama thought and felt that, just striking at Syria, striking at the leadership, they may end up in the same situation as Iraq, and they didn't want that, and so he made the decision not to do that, But the point is that Obama was the president. The decision was to be taken as to whether or not to invade a country in the Middle East. And Obama made the decision not to, based on so many things, based on the history, based on the feasibility, based on putting at risk the lives of Americans and all of that, and Obama made a decision not to. You know, when Obama left office during Trump's first term in office, you know, and Trump took certain decisions that looked quite decisive. And so even some of Obama's people, some of those that worked with Obama in the national security, this thing, they're now like, they now liked some actions that were taken by Trump because Trump looked decisive. You know, unlike Obama that was taking his time trying to decide something. So Obama looked indecisive, whereas Trump looked like somebody who was decisive, you know, in some of the actions he took in Ukraine, and all that. Although we know that he was trying to be on the good side of Putin. The point I want to make is that we've now seen the opposite of Obama. While Obama will take his time, he will read through a lot of technical details, a lot of intelligence information and all that. He will read through books and materials on the region, and he will develop an informed knowledge of the issue of the region, and they would debate the issue, they will discuss and discuss and discuss and come to a conclusion. Trump is the opposite. Trump is not somebody who likes reading like that. He's not somebody who is that detailed. He doesn't like going into technicalities. He just look at broad strokes of issues, and he likes going with his instinct, you know, and all of that. So, and now we've seen the opposite. I've seen the crisis in the Middle East, and now some of those Obama guys who were criticizing Obama for being indecisive. Some of them I'm listening to some of them now, the way they are criticizing Trump now. Some of them envied Trump and wish that a Trump-like personality was president. If a Trump-like personality was president, probably Ukraine would not have been invaded and some other stuff like that. You know, some of them are now coming out to criticize what Trump is doing now because it now seems to be the radical opposite of Obama. While Obama would take his time, would, would Obama would take counsel from former presidents, from people with necessary experience, even people who did not agree with him to work with him, even his political opponents, he employed them, he appointed them to work in his government. So now we see the radical opposite of that. For Russia, we've seen that Russia is in this situation, right? The top allies of Russia, because of